Alright folks, today's video is 3.3b, which is factoring trinomials with a leading coefficient of a equaling 1. So when I say a equals 1, this is what we're looking at. So for ax squared plus bx plus c, if a equals 1, then we'll replace this a with 1, which says we're going to have x squared plus bx plus c, where b and c are integers, and I say will, but I'm just going to say can instead. A lot of the problems I'm going to give you will factor, but not everything can factor. We'll get more of that as we practice. To a form x plus m inside parentheses times x plus n inside parentheses, where m and n are integers. They're whole numbers. They could be positive, they could be negative, they could even be the same number, but we're looking for this to be our final form if we start with our original form x squared plus bx plus c, where these guys are numbers. Okay, so let's look at this. So the thing I use is what's called an x method, because in order to factor this, I'm going to make an x. So here's what I'm going to look at. We need to find two numbers that multiply to be 2 and add to be that middle number. So multiply to be our c number and add to be our middle number. So we're going to multiply to be 2 but add to be 3. So I'm going to write a list of all the numbers that multiply to be 2 because that's pretty easy to do. So multiply to be 2. 1 times 2 and negative 1 times negative 2. I think those are all the numbers that multiply to be 2. So we have to look at this list. 1 plus 2 is going to give us 3, and negative 1 plus negative 2 is going to give us negative 3. Looks like we want positive 3. So my two numbers I'm going to look at are 1 and 2. Let's make sure this is focused for everybody. There we go, a little better. Okay, so I'm looking at 1 and 2. So I'm going to write a 1 here, and I'm going to write a 2 here. So I want to be in this form. So I'm going to set up two parentheses just like they have with space enough for two different terms on the inside. We're going to look at the front. We know that x times x is going to give us x squared. We know we have a positive 1 from this guy and a positive 2 from this guy, so plus 1 and plus 2, and then we can check ourselves by distributing back out. So first term times first, we're going to distribute here. If we had just this one, we distribute to both of these, and if we had just this one, we distribute to both of these. Unfortunately, we have both terms, so we need to distribute both times. So x times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x, 1 times x is 1x, and 1 times 2 is 2. When I combine my like terms, I'm going to have x squared, my like terms are here, plus 3x plus 2, which was my original problem. So that says the fully factored form of this trinomial is x plus 1 times x plus 2. Okay, so let's take a look at what we did first. The first thing I did was I made an x so I could use the x method. I put the one at the top is my c, so my c number is always going to go here at the top, and my b, my middle number, is always going to go here at the bottom. And I make sure to say, hey, I need to multiply to be this one and add to be this one. After that, so I guess that was step 2, is write the things in the right spot. And then my step 3 was writing a list of all the factors of 2, so list all factors of my c. And then I figured out which of those, so which add or subtract to be b, to bb. And then I wrote this out with my parentheses first, and I just copied these factors over, so positive 1 and positive 2 gets copied over. And this is just a check down here. If you don't want to check, that's fine, but I think you should check it the first few times to make sure you're doing this correct. And then once you kind of got a hang on it, you can just kind of go straight to your answer and not go further, and just to have a 2-step as opposed to like a 3 or 4 line answer. Okay, so let's do the same thing for this next one. So my example now is x squared plus x minus 2. So it looks like, make my x first. I need to multiply to be negative 2 and add to be, don't forget there's a 1 in front of this x, add to be 1. So my numbers that multiply to be negative 2 are 1 and negative 2, and then of course negative 1 and positive 2. Negative times a positive is always going to give us a negative, so don't forget to write both of these versions. So I need to figure out which of these adds to be my middle term, adds to my b. So it looks like 1 plus negative 2 is negative 1, and negative 1 plus positive 2 is positive 1. Looks like I want my b to be positive 1, so I'm looking at the second row, so I'm going to use negative 1 and 2. So now I make my parentheses. We need to get x squared, so that's x times x. We multiply our first terms, we're always going to need our first number. So multiply our first term, we're always going to need our first number. And then I need -1 and +2. And I know the question might come up, does order matter? Does it matter which you put in here? And right now the answer is no. It definitely does not matter. So you can kind of do this in whatever order you want to. I'm going to check this just to make sure I'm right. So x times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. -1 times x is -1x. And -1 times 2 is -2. Combine my like terms, I get x squared plus 1x minus 2, which is what I originally had. So the fully factored version of this is x minus 1 times x plus 2, which you can also write as x plus 2 times x minus 1. Either way is fine. Okay, last one. So x squared minus 6x plus 9. Doing the exact same thing. So we need to figure out what multiplies to be positive 9, but adds or subtracts to be -6. So factors of 9. Well, we got 1 and 9. We got 3 and 3. Oh, and don't forget that two negatives will multiply to give you a positive. So -1, -9, and -3 and -3. And that looks like all of our factors. So 1 plus 9 equals 10. 3 plus 3 is 6. -1 and -9 is -10. And -3 and -3 is -6. I want these to add to be -6, so not +6, and the 10s are definitely not working, so it looks like -3 and -3 is what I'm writing to the sides of my x, which says that, okay, we're making our parentheses, x squared is x times x. We copy over our -3 and our -3. If we wanted to check, which I always want to check to make sure I'm right, x times x is x squared, x times -3 is -3x. -3 times x is -3x, and -3 times -3 is +9. Make sure you multiply those and don't add them together. Alright, combining the like terms is where we are going to add them together. -3x minus 3x is -6x. Bring down our +9, this is what we want. So yes, this is definitely my fully factored form of the trinomial when we have a number in the front of x squared that is just 1 and nothing else. Okay, so this video showed you how to factor trinomials with a leading coefficient of a equals 1. We talked about where we were starting. We talked about where we were ending. So start, end, start, end, start, end. Good luck, folks.